In January of 2025, falconers and spectators from all around the world gathered together in northern Utah as a way to celebrate the 50-year anniversary of the Gerald Richards Sky Trials. Gerald Richards was an incredible man and a remarkable falconer. He taught and lifted and helped so many people into the sport of falconry. Later on in his falconry career, Gerald conceived of a falconry event where people could gather together and witness high-flying falcons do what they do best. And that is what originally called the Pigeon Derby and eventually became the Sky Trials. This year marks the 50-year anniversary. This video will follow along and see 2 days of the Sky Trials and give you a chance to see what it's like to actually be in the field at this remarkable event. In the early days of the Sky Trials, Gerald Richards would have a soup night at his house and invite everybody to come and enjoy. This tradition is kept alive now at Marshall Radio Telemetry. Guests from all around the world can come and enjoy a nice meal and a chance to socialize and swap stories from the past and make plans for the next coming days where the falcons will be flown, the rules are laid out, and all the plans are unfurled. Driving out to the Sky Trials, Friday morning, sun's coming out, there's not much wind, it's cold, it's dry, it's beautiful, the roads aren't muddy, the roads are nice and dusty, and people are showing up.
Okay, I'm Shane Clark, and I've been associated with the Sky Trials for 100 years or so. I've been an organizer, I've been here as a participant and a contestant, and it's just awesome to get out here and watch great birds fly and get together with other people and tell stories together. And, yeah, it's a great activity. Love it. Every year.
I'm Darvel McBride. I've been coming to these kind of events since I was a little kid. My dad, Al McBride, I've been riding on him and his other falconry buddy's shoulders since I was a little kid. I'm 40 years old now. And I'm still riding on his shoulders and on his buddy's shoulders.
Hey, I'm Grace Shumway. I'm out here with the Merlin. We're at the Utah Sky Trials today, and we get to watch some really cool flights. I brought my dad here with me today. He's never been to Sky Trials, and it's been really fun to watch these amazing stoops. For me, falconry is a beautiful sport. I'm very passionate about birds, and I really enjoy being up close to them and watching them in action.
My name is Steve Chungren, and the question is, what is falconry to me? Well, falconry to me is pursuing completely wild quarry on a regular basis, and that is the sport of falconry. And the Sky Trials is an event that people can come together at the end of the season because because falconry is so solitary and you're out hunting by yourself, that others can actually watch the fruits and efforts of the falconer training his bird, and he can share his bird with a group of people and they can actually see it fly. And this was what Gerald found, that it was difficult for anyone to see what a bird did when they were out hunting and things, so it was a kind of a social at the end of the season to see the best birds. And of course, as humans are very competitive, we always want our birds to do well and to place in it, and so it's a fun end of the season event that the falconers come together to see the birds perform.
Right. Good morning. My name is Nick Harris, and I've been lucky enough to work with birds of prey for the last 25 years. And I have kind of been on the fringes of the falconry community for a really long time, but my experience is mostly as a wildlife educator. For years and decades, did the show up at Hogle Zoo with Steve Shingren, and since that show wrapped up, I've started my own companies. In the last 4 years, we've been doing education programs all throughout the valley. I've got a dozen awesome birds that I get to fly, and the last couple of years I've been focusing a little bit more on hunting and natural behaviors, and it has been an absolute pleasure to watch some of these birds that are more used to flying for education get out there and get after some wild quarry. And it's just the pleasure of my life to get to work with these birds of prey.
Awesome. What's your favorite bird? If you could pick just one.
I love falcons, right? Just their intensity, their intelligence, and the way that you get out exactly what you put in with all of them too. I also happen to have a huge soft spot for owls. My most recent bird is a monster Siberian eagle owl, and she's been really fun.
Sweet.
Kevin from Marshall Radio Telemetry. So been in the business and in the sport of falconry going on about 24, 25 years now. Ben asked me what I see and having a unique position being a company that deals worldwide with the sport. So very interesting changes and new directions that the sport's taking worldwide. So I'll start with our Middle East customers. So the sport of falconry there is resurgent. You have all of the national governments in the Middle East that are really pushing it as a heritage sport, pushing young people into the sport. So we're seeing falcon racing, we're seeing husbandry programs over there. So we're seeing a real big increase in the number of falconers in those countries and in their enthusiasm for the sport. Here in the United States, we've seen the demographic age, so a lot of the falconers are getting up into their 60s and 70s now, but just being out at an event like this, so the 50th annual Sky Trials here in Rush Valley in Utah, we're seeing just a lot of younger people coming into the sport and at least showing some interest. A lot of new apprentices coming in, so taking that sport from that aging generation and putting it into the youth, which is super duper important. So just one other thing from Marshall's perspective, not in the raptor community, but there is a new avian community that's just emerging right now, and that is people free-flying parrots. And so we're seeing a real big increase in interests for giving, natural behavior, letting these birds go out and do what their natural tendencies are, and to really increase fitness and emotional development with them. So it's been great just for the avian community in general, but happy to be out here today at the Utah Sky Trials, the 50th anniversary Gerald Sky Trials. There you go.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Hi, my name is Raja. I'm originally from Kansas City, but I moved up to Ogden to work at the Ogden Nature Center. I love falconry because I think it's really cool to just have that connection with birds and just to see what birds do naturally. It's really awesome.
Okay, my name is Vanessa. I came down from Ogden. I work at the Ogden Nature Center, and I've really fallen in love with the birds, so I'm studying to do an apprenticeship.
Sweet.
I'm Steve Tate. I have been doing falconry for, over 50 years now. Yeah, my first birds would be over 50 years ago, goshawk and prairie falcon. Some of my favorite birds have been passage prairie falcons, which I still really love, but I prefer to fly gyrXperegrine specifically, and just for the challenge of it. I'm a hood maker, been a hood maker at least that long, and I like to fly sage grouse, which is difficult nowadays. Flying long wings, living in Salt Lake, it's always been difficult, but the game numbers are not what like they used to be. But the Sky Trials has always been a fun social event for me, where all the falconers come together, because we typically don't fly together. I'm always by myself when I fly. So it's a great gathering of guys I haven't seen probably for the whole year. And we get to see, being a judge this year, last year we flew 16 falcons. Well, I got to see almost a month's worth of falconry in one day. Maybe not real falconry, but still, it was we had some very good flights. And we're hoping if it breaks today, we'll have some more really good flights. So, yeah, that's my story. Just can't wait till next fall to start again.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Say, Sky Trials.
Sky Trials.
Okay, my name's Gerald Clark. I've been practicing falconry on and off since 1980. Ricardo Velarde was my sponsor. I was his first apprentice. Anyway, I'm enjoying the weather out here. We had an exciting day yesterday. 2 of my birds qualified for today. I'm looking forward to flying them. 2 years ago, my bird buddy won the Sky Trials, and I don't know if he's going to do it this year or not, but we'll see. Anyway, I love to hunt sage grouse up in Wyoming. I've had an opportunity to hawk with Steve Chingren, and I caught my first winter sage grouse this year. So that was a feather in my cap. So anyway, what can I say about the future of falconry? I just hope it's preserved and that young people will pick it up, especially the art of flying long wings. It's a lot harder, much more time consuming. You have to have a lot of equipment and a vehicle to get way out far and fly in open spaces. And I just hope that there's some space still left for future generations to do this, because it's such a wonderful thing to do. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Stephen Buffett from Idaho Falls, Idaho. Been coming down here for as long as I can remember. I've been a falconer since 1986, so a few years. And I just, this is where I started, was down here in Utah, and I currently fly a 5 or 6 year old peregrine, an autumn peregrine, after sage grouse and ducks, and I don't know.
What's your favorite bird? Your favorite type of bird?
Favorite type of bird? It varies from year to year, but Tiercel hybrid's always been very good to me. I love flying this peregrine, and I've always been enamored with gyrs. So
awesome. Hey, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, good morning. We're all out here to the Sky Trials field, and as you can see, it's rough, and you've got to have it in you to want to come out in something like this, and especially being out here in this temperature and conditions all by yourself with your falcon and your dog. But that's the ultimate, to be in the middle of nowhere and hunting. That's what falconry is to me.
Yeah, it's pure. Okay, what's your name?
Steve Jensen.
And how long have you been doing falconry?
Well, started in the mid-60s and started breeding falcons in 77, 78. And yeah, it's been a lifetime.
It's a life passion for you. What is the best game hawk? What's the best falcon, in your opinion? What's the best hunting bird for falcons?
Well, everybody's got the different opinion because of what they're used to. But for the terrain and where we hunt, and I think some people agree with me because they've got different opinions, for sure. But the tersel pills into a female jur, and that hybrid, I think, is the best you can get.
Awesome.
They're phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for all you've done for the falconry community. Sure appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, my name's Rick Guritsky. I've been falconry for over 50 years. I fly nothing but peregrines now with my Springer Spaniels. And every year, including this year, I've been flying a cast, a tercel and a female peregrine together. And it's really, the dynamics of a cast with a tercel and female peregrine is amazing. They have their roles, and it's just, they've caught a lot of stuff. They're just catching the crap out of stuff. And it's just having a lot of fun. I just wish we had some snow because it's been so difficult this year trying to hunt upland game with no snow.
Yeah.
But no, peregrines are it. And the future of falconry is okay except for long winging. It is just dying out.
Taking a lot of extra work to go in to put in a long wing.
Yeah, and then with the avian flu and with gas prices, people are, the hawking guys, the off-stringers are still going pretty strong, but as far as long winging goes, yeah, it's a struggle. But anyways, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
My name is John Kaufman. I've been a falconer for nearly 20 years out in Wyoming, and I really enjoy peregrines and hope the future's bright.
Hi, I'm Paul Domsky. I'm a falconer from New Mexico. I came to the Sky Trials, my first Sky Trials. I've got a bird entered who's thankfully made the final, if we fly in this weather. I love tersel peregrines and merlins, my two favorite birds. I'm just hoping for a good time and meeting and talking to other falconers. Thanks.
Glad to have you out.
Thank you.
Hey, my name's Spencer Kirk. I've been involved with the Sky Trials since I was probably about 10 years old. My dad got asked to judge by his sponsor, and it's been 25 years plus now that we've been out here doing this. I flew a bird through middle school and high school, had a lot of fun flying kestrels. My dad was flying merlins for a long time. Had an absolute blast doing that, really enjoyed that. I haven't flown in probably 15 or so years now, and it's still a part of me. It's still part of something that I enjoy doing. You live vicariously through everybody else. Get to come out here and be a part of it and see people that you haven't seen, for a year, and talk to them like the last time you saw them was yesterday. It's been really enjoyable. We've got precarious weather today, and hopefully we'll get to see some flights at some point. But it's been fun. I enjoyed coming here. Being part of the judging was one of my favorite things. I did that for a long time. Got to be involved with judging under Shane. Absolute blast, and I still don't think that there's a better seat in the house than being right there with a bird. seeing the intimacy of the falconer with his bird and how they develop different relationships. And it's always fun to listen to the falconers talk about how much they love their birds and how their birds are going to perform. And some of them get their wish on that day, and some of them don't. But either way, it's a good times are had by everybody, and it's been really enjoyable experience.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Ben. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Woodruff, and I have been a falconer since the 1900s, and I've flown every type of bird that I can think of, every bird that I can gain experience with. But I kind of got started learning about the Sky Trials, and that's why we're out here today at the 50-year anniversary of the Gerald Richard Sky Trials. And this is an opportunity that falconers have where if you've been flying a bird all season and it's a good hunter, you're getting to the end of the season, and here's an opportunity to get together with other falconers and fly. Falconry is really kind of isolating normal. It's difficult to have a bunch of people out hunting together. You can't normally fly birds together at the same time, and so this is a chance to get out here in the desert and have a falcon fly up thousands of feet and serve high-flying, extremely fast racing pigeons under them. These are pigeons that are bred to be able to evade falcons, and they normally don't even get caught, but you get the falcon diving hundreds of miles an hour, and it's breathtaking to watch.
I'm Jonah McBride. I grew up in California. I've been flying birds since I was a little kid. My first bird, I was 8 years old when I trained. Used to train little, we called them butcher birds, but they were shrikes. And my first falcon I had a little kestrel that somebody brought to me as a baby that had fallen out of a nest. And I raised it in the dresser drawer of my house, my bedroom, and just tame hacked it. And so it just lived outside, and whenever I go outside, come home from school, I always had food to feed it, and sitting around until it just turned wild. But that's kind of my first bird I trained. But I've been training birds for over 45 years now, and I've flown a lot of different birds and trained a lot of birds that aren't even falcons. And I love birds, and especially I used to fly red tails, and I used to fly Harris hawks, Cooper's hawks, sharp-shinned hawks, pretty much everything. I've flown Merlins and Harris, and probably in the last 25 years I started flying falcons. And I'm lucky to live in a place in Utah here where we can fly these big falcons. And I'm lucky because I work at home, and for my lunch break I go out and fly my bird. And the way I fly falcons is I let my falcon go, and me and my dog run around in the field, and the bird just follows us around, and I fly my bird for like an hour. And a lot of times we have things to flush, and a lot of times we don't, and it's always a surprise every day. And I love the Sky Trials, which we're at today, because it's just a great opportunity to let people see your birds, and for people to see others' birds, and for falconers to get together and to just meet with each other and just to have a good time. So it's for that part of it I really love. So
awesome, sweet. I'm Ben Woodruff. I'm here with Dal McBride. We're out here in the middle of a snowstorm, and Dal hails from sunny California. So
Dal, how long have you been doing falconry?
For 53 years.
53 years.
53 years.
Since the 1900s.
It seems longer.
And so who do you have today?
This is Captain. He's just finishing up here, but he's a Tiercel Peels falcon. And we just got done flying the first day of these sky trials, and because of the weather, the second day is not going to be included in the tally for points. But he would have flown today, but it didn't quite work out because of the cancellation.
Yeah, bad weather conditions.
This bird is from Dave Cherry, a breeder, and I'm just really happy with this bird. He's really flying good.
Well, it matters the falconer too. I'm sure you did a good job training him, getting him up to speed, but it helps that he's a peregrine. That's half your problem right there. If you're flying a falcon, if you have a peregrine, you're on the right track.
Well, it does take a lot of dedication, especially if you're really going to catch game. And there's, it takes a lot of consistency and a lot of dedication and a lot of patience. And falconry teaches you patience. And it's been really fun. I started falconry when I was about 12, and when I was 13 and 14, my dad started getting into it with me, and so it's gone from my father, my brothers. Some of my brothers do falconry. One of them, Jonah, is pretty well known here in Utah area, and he flies some wonderful hunting falcons, and it's a great sport. And I don't know if it's really a sport, an art, and it's very addicting to certain types of personalities, and our family loves falconry.
Well, you've got a rich heritage with all your family doing it. That's neat that you all get to share it together.
Thank you so much for that.
So what would you say to people in the future, people seeing this video 50 years from now, 100 years from now, if they might be able to see this video? What do you want to tell them about falconry, or about what it's like to actually work with these birds firsthand?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's not for everybody. It is a form of hunting, and we get a lot of the same kind of feelings and adrenaline rushes that you get from hunting. But it's also really a form of bird watching. We actually train our birds to do what they do in the wild and what they naturally want to do. We give them a lot of exercise, and we kind of go through the same steps that they go through in the wild to learn how to hunt and fly, and they become part of your team. The falcons learn that they have better chances for success with me and with the dog, and they key over us to help them. They can fly away at any time, but we do use transmitters to track them because they get into long chases, and sometimes they catch something far away. And it's not for everybody. It's not a weekend sport. You can go hunting on the weekends or for 2 weeks of hunting season, but with a falcon, if you want to have any kind of success, it has to be regular, and the birds have to, just to compete with the wild stuff that they're chasing, to have a chance, they have to be strong, and they have to have a lot of consistency.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and thanks for making the trek out here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always nice to talk to you, Ben.
I appreciate it.
We go way back, and you helped me, get some accipiters back in the day, and I flew a couple sharp shins because of you. And it's falconry. There's so many different birds. It kind of depends on the quarry and the areas that you're hunting, and so this kind of bird, it requires a lot of room like we have out here. For anyone that might not know, they're the fastest living species. They've been clocked over 240 miles an hour in their stoop, and they're all the birds of prey. They're marvelous, but it's not for anybody. It's a lot of people get divorced because of falconry. So you got to have a tolerant wife that loves you and is okay with you being gone sometimes, and getting up and leaving early every morning. anything else.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I love seeing you. I see you once a year or so, it seems like. I wish I saw you more, but we're good friends, and I appreciate that. I love your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming out. Sure appreciate it.
You too.
Lee Stevenson. I've been a falconer. I haven't been in the sport really for maybe the last 10 or 15 years, but I used to come out here to the Sky Trials every year. Got started in the sport in Colorado probably 30 years ago, and actually hosted a couple of Sky Trials there as well. Sky Trials are fun. I really enjoy going to them. I think sometimes people forget though that falconry is still a hunting sport. This is really just a demonstration thing for people. It's a chance to see the birds fly and have a good time, social, get to see old friends and stuff. But it's primarily a hunting sport, and this is a good reminder of that. Good to be out here too.
Sweet. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Krista Edwards. I am a Master Licensed Falconer here in Utah, and I am the president of the Utah Falconers Association. And we got requested to see if we could put on the 50th anniversary of the Utah Sky Trials, which was started by Gerald 50 years ago. And I asked my board, hey, are we up to this? And they said yes, and so we took on the challenge, and here we are. About a year into planning, and we're out here on January 24th and 25th celebrating what Gerald started. Yesterday was amazing. Yesterday we had 16 birds entered, which is more than in previous years. And today we woke up and we knew that there was going to be weather, we knew there was going to be snow. We came out here, we hoped for the best. Unfortunately, as you can see, the snow has not let up. And so instead we decided to cancel the official flights, and we moved to exhibition flights instead. So the spectators still had birds to watch, birds still got to get flown, and I think most people are pretty happy with the outcome. Yeah, so the Sky Trials. The best way I describe it to people who are not familiar with falconry or who have no exposure to falconry or birds in general, I basically say it's falcon racing. And that usually conjures up an image in their mind of like falcons head-to-head racing in a straight line. But we have each bird fly at different times because they do not get along usually with each other. And they are judged on a number of factors. And so that is how high they can go, how fast they get to that height, it's called the pitch, how fast they stoop down, so their dive speed, right? As well as how intently they pursue the pigeons. And there's one more I'm forgetting. But it's on our website.
Hi, I'm Kindy Mortensen. I'm Gerald Richards' granddaughter. I'm Tanisha. I'm also his granddaughter as well. I just wanted to share a couple little stories about my grandpa. And I don't have many, but the one I'm going to share with you, I actually have a couple, was even though he had all the birds and we loved watching him with his pigeons, he wasn't known as the bird grandpa. He was known as dancing grandpa, because when we would go visit, he would put us on his feet and he would dance with us, and that was always just so fun and something that I looked up to, and I just felt so special when he'd just dance us around the rooms and he would just take turns with all of us, and that was just probably some of my most memorable memories with my grandpa.
I was actually really young when he passed, but I do know everyone just really, really loved him, adored him. My dad actually was really into track in high school, so that legacy there kind of lives on through him. So really, really cool to be here and to see all of this happening as just part of his legacy. It's really awesome.
One other story is just him with his pigeons. We loved watching him with his falcon, but it was really magical as a young kid to go to his home and there in Provo, Utah, and he would just whistle, and within minutes, like hundreds of pigeons would just come flying in and flying into their cage, and we literally thought he was just magic. Like, that was just so magical, and that he was just magic. So that's another fun memory.
Very well. They were really good friends. And if I remember correctly, you were there at the very first Pigeon Derby, right? Yeah. Okay, the OG Pigeon Derby, which became the Sky Trial. So, Steve Shingren.
Thank you. Gerald was just a wonderful person. He was very, when I first met him, I thought he was nuts. I met him at Dale Kissimakis' house on 45th South and Atwood Boulevard. And that's just above State Street. If anyone knows where Atwood Boulevard is. But anyway, Dale lived in a little tiny house there, and I got my first kestrel from Dale Kissimakis. And so it was kind of a place where falconers would meet. We'd usually meet over there around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd go out to fly pheasants west of 45th South. So we would just basically, we'd meet there, and Dale had an old Ford Falcon that we would all pile into with our birds, and we were flying prairies mostly, and a couple people, one Marvin Myers, he had a peregrine, but we'd decide who was flying first, and we would drive down 45th South to 2700 West, and there was a pig farm on the corner there, Roscoe's Pig Farm, and we would turn, and right about there we would get one bird ready to fly. That would be on 2700 West and 45th South. It was all open fields right there. Is anyone familiar with Salt Lake City in the area I'm talking about? It's just unbelievable what it is today. And all we would do is drive slowly down the road and spot pheasants in the field. And if we spotted some, the person was flying, he got out and put the bird up as quickly as he could, and the people in the car would keep their eye on the pheasant, and as soon as the falcon was in the air, the pheasants would crouch, and then we'd all run out there and flush them. We did this, and we worked our way across the valley, out farther and farther, till finally the only open fields were left were around Harriman. And then as Harriman got closed in, then we started going north. We started hunting in Farmington, and there was a lot of good duck ponds and canals and things in Farmington. But anyway, Gerald, I met him over at Dale's, and he was talking about his Great Basin Laboratories, which was a catalog that he put out. And back in the old days for falconry, if you got an old magazine, it'd have falconers equipment and stuff for sale, and there were want ads in the backs of the old Popular Mechanics magazines and things, and people would sell all types of things, try and make a little bit of try to be a little bit of make some cash off of their sport. So Gerald decided he was going to breed kestrels, and he was going to selectively breed kestrels to try and bring out traits that would make those kestrels more like a merlin. And he was going to call it I believe it was correct me if someone knows, the Jorgensen's kestrel is what it was going to be called. And he was really he bred them up. He worked at the University of Utah. He was a lab assistant up there, and he worked. He had the kestrel. I don't know where. I think his kestrel breeding programs were at home, but anyway, he was breeding them, and he wanted to sell them. And so when he had captive bred birds that he had bred, he decided he was going to sell them. And they didn't have captive bred sale of birds back then. It was against the law. Well, the feds told him that if he sold these birds that he bred, that they would arrest him. Well, he went and talked to an attorney, and the attorney says, you know, no, you got second generations of these birds that you've bred in captivity. The attorney told him, go ahead and sell them. They can't, that's domestic. They can't do anything to you. So Gerald took his attorney's advice and sold a kestrel to a federal agent. Well, they came and handcuffed Gerald and hauled him off, and they talked with the judges and everything. But there was a point where he went in front of a crazy judge in Salt Lake City called Judge Ritter, and they said, Judge Ritter talked to the attorneys and everything, said, oh no, we're not going to do anything. Gerald came in and the judge had forgot what he had said, and they told him that he's guilty and he's going to jail for a long time. And they handcuffed him and hauled him out of there. And his wife was trying to find the attorney and everything, and finally he was golfing or something. They got to get an injunction or whatever it is to get Gerald out of prison. So he was the first one to really lead the way in breeding and selling captive bred birds. And he did finally get, I don't know, I can't remember the whole outcome of it. Do you remember, Jeff, on that one?
I don't.
Anyway, he got a pretty good fine, I think, but he didn't serve any time. Oh yeah.
Is it true that he never got that felony taken off of his record?
That's true. Yeah, he was a convicted felon for that. Yeah, for selling those kestrels, the Jorgensen's kestrels. Anyway, that's the kind of guy he was. He was very dedicated to doing things. But he was a fun person to be around. He was always telling the stories, and he was, when he first met Ed Pitcher, because Ed Pitcher can really embellish a story. and Ed will say to himself, no stories worth telling, it's just not worth embellishing. So anyway, one of the first nap meets when I saw Gerald watching Ed talk about his bird being 3,000 feet up, and I'd rather catch a duck from 2,000 feet than 200 ducks from 200 feet. That's what Ed would tell him, and Gerald just took it all in, and he started to just get excited about flying birds really high. And he wrote a paper called How to Make a Sky Buster. And we should publish that in the Utah Falconry newsletter sometime. I actually have it, so if the club wants to get the article and publish it in one of the newsletters, it'd be kind of fun to read. But he was just a great guy. I mean, he was so animated. I mean, when he would tell a story, he would fall down on the ground and spin around and kick his legs. And he would, oh, here comes a falcon. It's just, he was special. The day that he died, he was flying birds out in the area where we were today, somewhere out there, and he was soaring a red tail. He wanted to get a red tail in the sky troughs that would stoop from out of the heavens. And he soared his red tail off, and it went off and flew away. He was with Frank Welch, and I can't remember who else was out there with him, but he also had his little neighbor girl. Gerald always embraced the kids. He always brought his neighbor kids, and what he did for a living is he lectured at schools, and he was really good with children. And he was like Uncle Gerald to all the kids. And he interested tons of people about birds of prey by his lectures that he did, not only in Utah, but all over the West. He would go on the road, and he would stay at every falconer's house that he could when he was out doing his lectures, and he would challenge all of them to come to the pigeon derby to fly their birds. And he actually developed a pretty good following of people. And it was the first, we didn't have sky trials or pigeon derbies until Gerald put this together. What gave him the idea to do it is he wanted people to be able to see really good falconry. But when we would go out hunting in caravans, it was like a whole bunch of cars driving around trying to find a duck pond or a pheasant, and kind of like they do with the half of me. It's rather difficult to make that happen and see a lot of birds fly. You get to see a couple fly, but you don't get to see very many. So Gerald decided to do the pigeon derby, where we would go out and fly all the birds, and you get to see them. So that's he was a great man. I'm not going to go because we got a lot raffle and everything. People's going to get late, but I will always remember where I was when I got the news. I was in Mitch's Cafe in Farson, Wyoming, and in the old days there, all the falconers that hunted and camped on the river there. We got a special room in the back of the cafe, and so every night, and we usually went for dinner at Mitch's Cafe every night, And we were all in that back room. This was before cell phones. And someone called the cafe, and I was back there with Dennis Briscoe, Shane Davis, myself, and I don't remember if Joe Terry was there or not, but there was about 4 or 5 of us there when we got the news, and it was just hard to believe. I think Gerald passed away at 57 years old. It's way too young. And he passed away, had a massive heart attack, coming off the mountain with his red-tailed hawk on his hand after he recovered it when it flew off in a sword. And he had his little neighbor girl with him. And he just grabbed his chest and slumped and had a massive heart attack and died. And the hawk fell to the ground with its hood on and was sitting on the ground, and the little neighbor girl hiked off the mountain to the nearest farmhouse and called for help. And they came and they got Gerald's body off the mountain. And then they called Joe Terry and said they didn't know what to do with the hawk, so they just left it up there, and it was sitting on the ground hooded. So Joe Terry took the 151 telemetry, which was the big antennas we used to have, and tracked up and found his red-tailed hawk. And he brought that red-tailed hawk home. And I actually ended up having that red-tailed hawk when I started doing my first bird shows at Utah's Hubble Zoo. And I flew it, I called it Jake. And I flew it for a long time. So, he was a great guy. And salute to Gerald and the legacy that he created. And now we have sky trials that are all over the world. So, great guy.
From Scotland. He's the author of the book Onwards, which many of you guys have seen the beanies and the hats and the books all this weekend. David is one of the finest pure peregrine falconers that I know. And he flies peregrines over pointers in Scotland on red grouse. So David, take it away.
Here we go. This is how we start speeches in Britain. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, I've also been advised to extend a welcome to dirt hawkers. Apparently some have gotten in. We can only apologise. What do they say? Like the left-handed, they walk amongst us. So we need to cover our drinks. As the memorial draws to a close, I must thank you for inviting me to say a few words. When I agreed to do this, I didn't realise how daunting preparing a speech for America's finest falconers would be. Please forgive me if I fumble. In spite of the fact I've written a book, I'm seriously not very good at reading, so this will become apparent as we go on. As is proper, let's fittingly start by showing our appreciation to the organisers. Today can only be described as a challenging logistical operation which enabled a fine show of falconry. Thank you very much. More so, appreciation to the falconers, but herein lies the trouble. The stoops are that good, the need for a British accent to provide any form of gravitas to this occasion now renders me surplus to requirements, so well done the falconers. I am here, but I do feel somewhat of a fraud, and that my being here is a mistake. I'm just really an insignificant brick falconer, stood in the mountain prairie wilderness in the company of falconry's giants, and poignantly, having just walked in the footprints of Gerald Richards. My insignificance is making me a little nervous. Remedy, they say, is to get the crowd on side with a joke. So if there was ever a time my dry British humour needed to land, it is now, or I promise you these closing remarks are going to crash worse than a drone being flown by Harold Clark. 4. If Harold, I love you, but if we were in Britain, we'd write folk songs about you. I did have another joke about hot tour and a play on words with Hawk in Utah, but I've been told that's completely inappropriate, so we'll just skip that one. Right, time to park my attempts at stand-up comedy and say something sincere, honest, and befitting the occasion. So, the combination of late nights and wine did lead to the completion of my memoir, Onwards. And Onwards' favourable reception can only be attributed to the shared affliction from which we all suffer. That celestial zeal that courses through our veins to point a falcon in the wind, strike her hood braces, watch her climb without skipping a wing beat, then tear the sky into whistling ribbons as she stoops her prey. Such like-mindedness leads to camaraderie, kinship, and in the case of Krista, Steve Chingren, and so many others I've met on this tour, staggering amounts of needless generosity. I'm indebted and not sure how to repay the ultimate ticket to the House of Grouse and Memorial Sky Trial. It is a true mecca destination for worldwide falconers, and on a global scale it really is. I know we've mentioned a few of us here that have travelled internationally. So many of my friends have done so before, and they were eagerly watching the Sky Trial live at sort of 3 o'clock in the afternoon back home in Britain, so that's amazing. However, to show my appreciation as best I could, I made everyone hoods, using my own patterns on the unbeatable tape lock hoods. Steve Tate absolutely revolutionising hood making as we know it, especially for my generation of falconers, so really grateful for that. I also thought it would help if I stowed a nice bottle of scotch in my luggage. I can only assume that its rareness was the reason that children drank it like it was going out of fashion. It seemed to work because in between the large drams, the master gave me the greatest ever induction into the world of sage-grouse hawking. Stephen, I'm truly grateful. In the UK, I'm fortunate to be one of the few falconers lucky enough to pursue the red grouse. There are probably more people in this room than UK falconers who get a full season hunting our endemic standalone quarry species. It's a formidable bird for reasons described in my book. Where's the camera? Available on Amazon in all good territories. I recommend the hardback. Getting permission to hunt red grouse is precious, expensive and hard earned. However, one reward that is guaranteed is the vista. Red grouse only live amidst stunning scenery and habitat. Pursuing them will lead you to the north of England, but even better, the Scottish Highlands. And here the purple heather extends right out to the green Caledonian forests and grey craggy mountains that dare the skies. Without all its distraction going on, it's the most exciting place to roll a hood from a falcon, but if you're really cute, a gyrXperegrine. As I say, I undertake this discipline with close friends. Some of you may have heard of or possibly even met Britain's finest in Dave Bishop, Lee McGurty, Stephen Lee, Simon Hyam, Ken McDougall. These stalwarts have all been to the House of Grouse and fondly regale stories from the desert. Their depictions of the culture and flights out here had me in awe, and when I told them I'd received an invite, their advice was unequivocal. Rip Stephen's hands off, cane your credit card into the red, leave the dogs at home with the wife, and effing go. They were not wrong. To my amazement, the oldest member of our syndicate, Ken McDougall, knew and was friends with Gerald. So this season, when we were hunkered in our Scottish bothy over a 2-week campaign of flying red grouse with peregrines over pointers, I lit the fire, plied him with wine, and asked him to tell me about Gerald. He may have some anecdotes which should sound all too familiar. It's quite interesting listening to your stories, they really are. Ken described his lifelong friend, so this is coming from the other side of the pond, from UK, from Ken. He described his friend as a lifelong champion of the red-tailed hawk and prairie falcon, so much so that Gerald's dedication saw him die under his red tail during a quest to take pigeons from the thermals. His lust to develop this hot air falconry saw him collaborate with the likes of Ed Picture, and it was good indication that in the days before kites and drones, his pigeon method made consistent, impressive hawks. Ken recalled that he once watched one of Gerald's prairie falcons make 3 successive pitches of between 12 and 1,500 feet, each time stooping his best homers. Incredibly, that same falcon then remounted for a 4th time before stooping and taking a wild meadow pipit. Ken went on to say that Gerald's home was warm and welcoming, that he and his wife Lavon always opened their doors to falconers to the point where their soup banquets became standing room only. Gerald was modest, not outspoken, meek, but he did get quite excitable at times. His wonderful churlish sense of humour meant he loved to caricature his falconry friends with much fondness. According to Ken, the much animated temper tantrum, or as it's known globally as the Chingdrum fit, often brought a wry smile to his face. As the Scots pine crackled in our fireplace, I listened on. Already I like this guy, Gerald. And intrigued from Ken's recollections, I researched more of Gerald's biography on a page which read, Ken, thanks for coming to the Utah Sky Trials. Best wishes, Gerald Richards. As I read on, I couldn't shake the words from the famous British scriptwriter Alan Bennett from my head. In one of Bennett's films, set in the north of England during the 1980s, there is an eccentric professor, and he's placed in an underperforming school and is talking about literature to a friend. He says, the best moments in reading are where you come across something, a thought, a feeling, a way of looking at things that you thought special, particular to you. And here it is, set down by somebody else, a person you've never met, maybe even somebody long dead. It's as if a hand has come out and taken yours. I know if Gerald was here, I'd be taking his hand and frog marching him to the bar to wrangle stories and training methods out of him. But devastatingly though, like other falconers that have gone before us, he is not. This only goes on for another hour. Right, so I lost my mentor to cancer over 5 years ago. And when motivation for your lifelong passion wanes, it can be the loneliest place in the world. Stuart Fall's death left me very much at a loss, and getting my story down in Onwards was certainly cathartic, but above all else, it made me realise that you need your friends, your family, your community around you to pull through. For us sat in this room, falconry is our tapestry of life. The canvas is the landscape, yet the falcon, the dog, the friendship, the camaraderie is the thread that keeps us from tearing apart. Thanks to technology, the tapestry now stretches further, and we can look out for each other across the globe. The Scottish Highlands becomes the Utah desert in nothing more than the time difference. And it's so important not to forget that, especially today when the anti-field sports and woke lobbyists are trying to tear us apart, which Britain's facing a torrid time of. That's a whole other conversation. We are all living at a time when we're not allowed to have a moment to ourselves. Media is aggressive, so absorbing, and vies for our attention with shock headlines. You're left to decipher what is fake news, what is propaganda, and if that isn't enough, the news is intertwined with bright colours, persistent, loud and alluring advertisements vying for our attention. It's exhausting. But for folk like us, because we have a better understanding of what authentic living is, the antidote is simple. Reconnect to fieldcraft. That celestial zeal I spoke about earlier works. I pity the modern teenager who doesn't know what it is to fish, observe wildlife or hunt or connect with their inner Neanderthal. Now this doesn't make us righteous, just incredibly lucky. Yet the relevance of all that is that we're the only ones who could recognise bold achievements and truly celebrate the lives of great folk in our field. Fantastic men, Stu in my case, Gerald and yours, and Doug Pinio as well, which deserves a mention. The name Gerald Richards will sadly mean nothing in the suburbs of Salt Lake City, but is kept alive out here in the desert. And what is also unsung is the power that this falconry affliction has within us. I've seen it firsthand. I paid witness to my mentor Stu slowly ebbing away to cancer. Firstly, he had all his teeth extracted, then endured brutal radiation treatment, chemotherapy to rid his body of the disease. Next, he bravely coped with the pain until the heavy onset of cancer would see him unable to control his balance, unable to consume anything other than mashed food and protein shakes, unable to hold down fluid. He suffered daily from a parched mouth, uncontrollable bleeding of the gums and extreme fatigue. The cancer, however, was absolutely powerless to kill his mental resolve and ambition to keep casting his peregrine into the wind. Despite the fact of having no teeth, just weak bleeding gums, he bit down on every occasion he could to strike the hood braces. His head and heart drove him to the moor, and it was on the moor where Stuart walked tall with purpose and conviction. On the moor is where Stuart experienced weightlessness, watching his pointer caught through the heather in front and his peregrine split through the clouds above. This is where his heaven was. I'm in no doubt I've just had the privilege to walk in a corner of Gerald's heaven. And what a memorial you've just delivered to have him look down on. The Germans have a word, Zeitgeist. It means spirit of the time. And it's no exaggeration to say that Gerald Richards is, and will always remain, a zeitgeist of falconry. 50 years since his passing, and we still recognise his influence, his vision and his spirit. I'm now going to steal the words of another wordsmith, this time an American, so you should like these ones. John McGee Jr. His words were spoken in 1941, yet chosen and read at my mentor's funeral by Helen MacDonald, author of H is for Hawk. They seem very apt for this occasion. I'll speak his words, which will put a stop to my ramblings and hopefully allow you to take a few moments to remember your friend Gerald. Dearly done, I promise. Oh, I've slipped the surely bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter silver wings. Somewhards I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung, high in the sunlit silence, hovering there. I've chased the shouting wind along and I've flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up the long delirious burning blue, I've topped the windswept heights with easy grace, where never lark nor eagle ever flew. And, while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. It's an epic poem, and as another laureate, T.S. Eliot, explains, we shall not cease from our exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. I'm very quickly going to take you back to our Alan Bennett film script, where the young petulant student now bleats back at the eccentric professor. Sir, I don't always understand poetry. Listen, Tims, I never understand it, but learn it now, know it now, and you will understand it whenever. Ladies and gentlemen, dirt hawkers, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for making me feel so welcome and ensuring that my whenever is now full of cherished memories. Let's have a drink to fallen falconers and absent friends.
first of all, I want to acknowledge one person while I'm up here, Chris Edwards, for taking on the challenge of putting this on, all of her time and energy. I think we owe her a round of applause. And before I have to read also, I'm not. I've got a Steve Chingren / Gerald Richards story that I can share. And some of you have probably heard it before, but this is back when Steve Chingren was young and fit as a brick. And Gerald, how much older was Gerald than you, Steve? 10 years? 12? 15? I don't know. Anyway,
he's probably 10 years older than me.
10 years. So me and Steve go down in his Ford Fiesta, his yellow Ford Fiesta, to Gerald's house one summer. And I'm young, younger than him. And we're in his backyard talking, and they're kind of talking trash back and forth against each other. Just like, yeah, he was a wrestler. Oh yes, that's right. That came up. And so within a few seconds, they were on the grass wrestling. And about 20 seconds went by. I'm just sitting there in a lawn chair watching, having a good time. 20 seconds went by, and I heard this blood-curdling scream. And I didn't know who it was. I didn't know which one of you yelled so loud. But it was Steve, and what did it do to your knee? He tore the ligaments.
I had surgery.
And Gerald was just a little scrappy guy, but yeah, don't mess with him. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. I also want to, acknowledge Robert. Robert was out in the field with us the whole time. He actually kept 3 of the metrics for us. Y'all had a chance to read the judging criteria, and I wish I would have read it a little closer myself. But so Robert was there. I'm sure everybody that came out to fly the birds knows this, but he would screenshot the pitch and the position and the speed. The speed was very subjective. It didn't really have any weight in the points, just so you guys know. Very minimal weight. So it was great to have him out there, because I don't remember him ever being out there before. But and Kevin was kind of backing him up out there in the crowd. So there was a clear winner. That makes it really easy for us having to find first place. It was a clear winner. But when I saw a few of the other positions, frankly, I was a little surprised. And Brad was too. We were conversing about it, and we thought about it. We went over it again and again, and position and time of flight, from this to serve, was pretty important. Mostly probably because of the wind. There was some wind. We don't know how high it was, at 1,000 feet, but it was probably pretty substantial. Just to give you, I just want to throw this in there. The highest pitch was done by Troy Morris's 3/4 female gyrXperegrine, but she was about a mile away when she hit it. So it was like 1,700 feet, but she was long gone, and he had to go retrieve. So, like I said, there was only one bird. We also, like I mentioned at the lunch, the dinner at Marshall, that the judges were there just to kind of see the action, the turn, how many turns each bird got, and there was only one falcon that got 3 turns. Each one was worth 5 points, and that did kind of change the dynamics. And what else? Okay, but the thing is, with position, not as much time of flight, mounting, but position, we know, everybody here knows that flies long wings, especially on a windy day, position is critical, right? Doesn't matter how high the bird is, What matters is once that bird leaves your fist, and Gerald, this is the way Gerald thought about it too. Once the bird leaves your fist, flies out, and those grouse or whatever it is that sees that falcon, they crouch. So it seems like feathers. Well, when they see a way out, if that falcon, they know that falcon can't get to them, especially when it's downwind, they're out, they're gone. And who hasn't seen that? It's been flying long ways. And so it is pretty critical, and it did make a pretty big impact on us. So let's just start with third place. I'm going to grab, you want to grab the corner? Okay, yeah. It was Chuck. Harold, come on up.
The 2001 Space Odyssey that played right before it flew.
And second place. And second place was Joker. So John, his bird on the third, we considered it as a kill, but we couldn't because his bird didn't kill, so we gave him a turn for driving the bird into the cars. So, and first place, Badger.
Okay.
I just want to say that there was a Tersel Prairie out there that I watched fly a couple times this year by Todd Ortez. It calls O'Tonner. How do you say his last name? O'Tonner. Todd. Anyway, I watched that little prairie fly a couple times when he was out getting ready for the Sky Trials, and I really thought that was the bird that would win it. It was always going well over 1,000 feet and just an amazing bird. And Gerald would really have been thrilled to see that. And I'd have to say, I don't know, is Todd here tonight?
No.
Well, that's probably the finest Tersel Prairie I've seen, I think I've ever seen. So it's a great bird. It was too bad it did fly well at Sky Trials. But thank you very much for the judges and.
And like Steve said, I've heard nothing but really good things about Todd's Tersel Prairie. So he wins the Prairie, even though his bird was disqualified because it came in and it didn't fly normally. But we're giving him that award. And I was going to say a little Gerald Richard story. Gerald Richard had a female prairie falcon. All the old guys probably remember Farah. And honestly, I think she was the first prairie falcon I ever saw fly back in the day. That would have been mid-70s, 76 or something, 75, 76, right at the beginning of the Sky Trials. And but he loved prairie falcons. That's what he really loved. He really loved to give the Prairie Falcon Award out. But I do remember one little flight with a Tersel Prairie that he had. We had a caravan. We went out on a caravan of falconers. There had been 15 or 20 cars. It was Calicat's first year. You had BBG, Smokey, and Calicat's first year. I remember she was a brown bird, and she caught a pheasant, right? And anyway, Gerald had a flight. And of course, we would never fly. Nowadays, we would never fly on something like metal arcs or anything protected like that. But I'm joking, you might accidentally do that. But we had a flight on a metal arc, and I remember there was a fence row,
and there were some trees, and I remember that little tiercel, he got, I don't know, he got up a couple hundred feet, but he came through the trees. He had a neck bell on a rubber band. I don't know exactly how he had it fixed, but the meadowlark flew through the two top barbed wires, and the tiercel followed him, and his bell got caught, and he just flipped around and was hanging like this on the wire. We thought he was, you know, in trouble, like Jonah's bird that got knocked out yesterday. Right? That was your bird, right? Yo, gosh. Yeah, that was scary. Anyway, that's a Gerald Richards story, and he got it. I think he had to unwrap it actually to get it off. But anyway, so we'll get the award to Todd. Thanks, you guys.